There are some places where the dead don't rest, where the walls remember, where every shadow hides a secret, and once you enter, you're never truly alone. This is the story of Sarah Mitchell, a woman who thought she found her dream home, but what she found instead was a nightmare that would follow her forever. Sarah had been searching for months. Every apartment in the city was either too expensive or too small. She was about to give up when she saw the listing. Spacious one-bedroom apartment, Victorian building, affordable rent, available immediately. The price was almost too good to be true, but Sarah didn't question it. She needed a place, and she needed it now. The landlord, Mr. Brennan, was an older man with tired eyes and a nervous smile. He barely looked at Sarah as he handed her the keys. "One thing," he said quietly. "Don't open the door after midnight, no matter what you hear." Sarah laughed. "What, is the building haunted or something?" Mr. Brennan didn't laugh back. He just stared at her with those hollow eyes. "Just don't open the door." The first week was perfect. The apartment was beautiful. High ceilings, original hardwood floors, and large windows that let in streams of golden sunlight. Sarah felt lucky. But then came the first midnight. Sarah was reading in bed when she heard it, a soft knock on the front door. Tap, tap, tap. She glanced at her phone. 12:03 a.m. Probably a neighbor, she thought. The knocking continued, gentle but persistent. Sarah got out of bed and walked to the door. She looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. She unlocked the door and opened it slightly. "Hello?" Silence. The hallway stretched before her, dimly lit by a single flickering bulb. The walls were covered in old, peeling wallpaper, and at the far end of the corridor, barely visible in the shadows, stood a figure, a woman, dressed in white, completely still. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. "Can I help you?" she called out. The figure didn't move, didn't speak. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. She quickly closed the door and locked it. For the rest of the night, she heard footsteps in the hallway, slow, deliberate footsteps, pacing back and forth outside her door. The next morning, Sarah mentioned it to her neighbor, Mrs. Chen, an elderly woman who lived across the hall. "Oh dear," Mrs. Chen whispered. "You opened the door, didn't you?" Yes. Why? What's wrong?" Mrs. Chen's face went pale. "She knows you now. She'll come back every night." Who? Who were you talking about?" Mrs. Chen leaned closer, her voice barely audible. "Her name was Elizabeth Hartley. She lived in your apartment 50 years ago. She was waiting for her husband to come home from the war. Every night at midnight, she would stand by the door, waiting. But he never came. He died overseas." Sarah felt her stomach turn. What happened to her? She waited and waited, night after night, until one night she couldn't take it anymore. They found her hanging from the ceiling beam in your bedroom, right above where your bed is now. Sarah's hands trembled. "That's just a story. It's not real." Mrs. Chen shook her head sadly. "Every tenant who opens that door after midnight sees her, and once she knows you are there, she doesn't stop. She thinks you're him. She thinks you're the one she's been waiting for." That night, Sarah tried to stay awake. She kept all the lights on. She turned on the TV for noise. But at exactly midnight, the knocking began again. Tap, tap, tap. Sarah covered her ears. "Go away," she whispered. The knocking grew louder. Bang, bang, bang. "Please, just leave me alone." Then a voice, soft and desperate. "Let me in, please. I've been waiting so long." Sarah's heart was pounding. She looked at the door. The handle was slowly turning. But the door was locked. She had locked it, hadn't she? The door creaked open, and there she was, the woman in white, standing in the doorway. Her face was pale, almost translucent. Her eyes were hollow and dark. Her dress was torn and stained. She took a step inside. "I've been waiting for you," she whispered.
Sarah screamed. She ran to her bedroom and slammed the door shut. She pushed her dresser against it, her hands shaking violently. From the other side, she heard the woman's voice. "Why don't you come to me? Why do you keep leaving?" Sarah grabbed her phone and called the police. "Please, there's someone in my apartment. She broke in." The dispatcher asked her to stay calm, said officers were on their way. But the voice kept calling. "I waited for you. All these years. You promised you'd come home." Sarah was sobbing now. "I'm not him. I'm not who you're looking for. You're lying. You always lie. You promised." When the police arrived, they found the apartment empty. No signs of forced entry. No evidence of anyone else being there. "Ma'am, are you sure you saw someone?" the officer asked. Sarah nodded frantically. "I saw her, right there, in a white dress. She broke in through the locked door." The officers exchanged glances. "Have you been drinking? Taking any medication?" "No, I'm telling you the truth." They searched every room, every closet. Nothing. After they left, Sarah sat on her couch, trembling. She looked up at the ceiling beam above her bed, and that's when she saw it, carved in the wood in old faded letters, "Waiting Forever, E.H. 1974. Sarah moved out the next day. She broke her lease, forfeited her deposit, and never looked back. But sometimes, even now, she wakes up at midnight to the sound of knocking. Tap, 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 and a voice, soft and sad, whispering through the darkness. "Why did you leave me again?" Because some spirits don't want to hurt you. They just want you to stay forever. What would you do if the dead knocked on your door? Would you answer, or would you run? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you're brave enough, like this video and subscribe to the Dark Archive for more true horror stories, because the darkness is always watching, and it's waiting for you.
They say a camera captures more than just images. It captures moments, memories, and sometimes it captures things that were never meant to be seen. This is the story of Marcus Webb, a paranormal photographer who made a living documenting haunted locations. He'd seen it all: orbs, shadow figures, unexplained mists. But nothing prepared him for what he found in the abandoned Blackwood Asylum. Because some places don't just haunt you, they consume you. Marcus had built a reputation. His photos had been featured in magazines, documentaries, and paranormal websites. He wasn't afraid of ghosts. He welcomed them. When he received an anonymous email about Blackwood Asylum, he was intrigued. "If you're brave enough, come to Blackwood, 3rd floor, room 313, midnight. Bring your camera. You'll get the shot of a lifetime." No signature, no return address. Marcus smiled. This was exactly what he was looking for. Blackwood Asylum had been closed since 1962 after a series of patient deaths that were never fully explained. The building stood on the outskirts of town, surrounded by overgrown trees and rusted fences. Marcus arrived just before midnight. The place was massive, 5 stories of crumbling brick and broken windows. The front doors were chained, but a side entrance had been pried open. He stepped inside. The smell hit him immediately. Decay, mold, and something else, something metallic. His flashlight cut through the darkness as he made his way to the stairwell. The walls were covered in graffiti and peeling paint. Every step echoed through the empty corridors. 2nd floor, 3rd floor. He found room 313 at the end of a long hallway. The door was slightly open. Marcus checked his camera. Battery full, memory card empty and ready. He pushed the door open and stepped inside. The room was small, a single bed frame with no mattress, a broken chair in the corner, and on the wall, scratched into the plaster, were words, "They're still here." Marcus felt a chill but pushed it aside. He'd seen creepier things. He set up his camera on a tripod and began taking long exposure shots. The technique often captured things the naked eye couldn't see. Click, flash,
He reviewed the first photo. Nothing unusual, just an empty room. Click. Flash. Second photo. Same thing. Click. Flash. Third photo. Marcus froze. In the corner of the room, barely visible in the frame, was a shadow, human-shaped, but it hadn't been there when he took the shot. He looked up at the corner. Nothing there now. He took another photo, aiming directly at that spot. Click. Flash. This time, the figure was clearer. A person, standing, facing away from the camera. Marcus's hands started to shake. "Hello?" he called out. "Is someone there?" Silence. He took another photo. Click. Flash. The figure had moved. It was closer now, still facing away, but definitely closer. Marcus's heart was racing. This wasn't normal, even for him. He decided to take one more shot. Click. Flash. And this time, the figure was right in front of the camera, face pressed against the lens, eyes wide open, mouth stretched in a silent scream. Marcus stumbled backward, knocking over his tripod. His flashlight rolled across the floor, casting wild shadows on the walls. He grabbed his equipment and ran. He didn't stop until he reached his car. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely get the key in the ignition. As he drove away, he kept checking his rearview mirror, half expecting to see that face again. When he got home, he immediately downloaded the photos to his computer. His blood ran cold. Every single photo showed the figure, getting closer and closer with each shot. And in the final photo, the one where the face was pressed against the lens, he could see something he hadn't noticed before. The figure's eyes weren't just open, they were looking directly at him, through the camera, through time. And beneath the image, in the metadata, was something impossible. The timestamp didn't show today's date. It showed October 13th, 1962, the day Blackwood Asylum closed. Marcus tried to delete the photos, but they wouldn't delete. Every time he moved them to the trash, they reappeared in his camera roll. That night, he started hearing sounds in his apartment. Footsteps, whispers. He saw shadows moving in his peripheral vision, and every time he closed his eyes, he saw that face, that horrible, screaming face. He contacted other paranormal investigators, showed them the photos. They all said the same thing. You need to go back. You need to finish what you started. Whatever you woke up, it followed you home. Marcus didn't want to go back, but the hauntings were getting worse. Objects moving on their own, his camera turning on by itself in the middle of the night, and always, always that feeling of being watched. 3 days later, Marcus returned to Blackwood Asylum. This time, he wasn't alone. He brought another investigator, a woman named Rachel, who specialized in spirit communication. They went back to room 313. Rachel set up her equipment, EMF detectors, voice recorders, everything they needed. Whatever's here, she said, we need to help it move on. That's the only way to break the connection. They began the session. Rachel spoke calmly, asking questions. Who are you? Why are you here? The EMF spiked. A voice came through the recorder, faint but clear. Trapped. Can't leave. Help me. Marcus felt a wave of sadness wash over him. This wasn't a malevolent spirit, it was a victim. What's your name? Rachel asked. Another spike. Sarah. Sarah Mitchell. Patient 313. Marcus's mind raced. He'd read about the patients who died here. Sarah Mitchell had been admitted in 1961 for severe depression. She died in 1962 under mysterious circumstances. Sarah, Rachel said gently, you don't have to stay here anymore. You can move on. You're free. The temperature in the room dropped dramatically. The lights on the equipment went wild. And then, everything stopped. Complete silence. Marcus took one final photo. Click. Flash. The room was empty. No shadows, no figures, just an old abandoned room. Marcus never went back to Blackwood after that night. The hauntings stopped, the photos finally deleted. But sometimes, late at night, he still thinks about Sarah, about all the lost souls trapped in places like that, waiting for someone to see them, to acknowledge them, to set them free. Have you ever captured something unexplained on camera, something that shouldn't be there? Share your stories in the comments, and if you want more chilling tales from the dark archive, hit that subscribe button, because some stories need to be told, and some spirits need to be heard. Stay in the dark. We'll be waiting.
There's a reason we're afraid of the dark. It's not what we can see, it's what we can't. The things that hide in the corners of our vision, the shapes that disappear when we look directly at them. But what happens when the thing in the dark wants to be seen, when it steps into the light and smiles at you? This is the story of Detective James Morrison, a man who hunted monsters for 20 years until the night a monster started hunting him, and it smiled the whole time. James had seen the worst of humanity: murderers, kidnappers, psychopaths. He thought nothing could shake him anymore. Then came the reports. Over 3 weeks, 5 people had gone missing in the downtown area, all between midnight and 3 a.m., all last seen walking alone. No bodies, no evidence, just gone. But there was one consistent detail in the witness statements: a tall man in a suit, just standing there, smiling. James didn't think much of it at first. Cities have all kinds of strange people. But then he watched the security footage. The video was from a corner store, timestamp 2:47 a.m. A woman, Lisa Chen, was walking past. You could see her on camera, talking on her phone, completely unaware. And then, from the edge of the frame, he appeared. A man, impossibly tall, at least 7 feet, dressed in a black suit that seemed to absorb the light around it. But it was his face that made James's blood run cold. He was smiling, a wide, unnatural smile that stretched from ear to ear. His eyes were completely black, empty. He didn't walk, he glided, moving toward Lisa with impossible smoothness. Lisa must have sensed something because she turned around. The moment she saw him, she froze. Her phone fell from her hand. The man kept smiling, kept moving closer, and then, just before he reached her, the camera glitched. Static. Darkness. When the feed came back 3 seconds later, they were both gone. James watched the video 17 times. Each time, his hands shook a little more. He started investigating, checking all the locations where people had vanished. Every single spot had something in common. They were all near old buildings, abandoned warehouses, closed factories, places where darkness gathered thick and heavy. James began to notice something else too. He was being followed. It started small, a feeling of being watched, footsteps behind him that stopped when he turned around. Then he started seeing him. Late at night, when James would leave the precinct, he'd catch a glimpse, a tall figure in a black suit, standing under a streetlight, just watching, always smiling. James would blink, and the figure would be gone. "I'm just tired," he told himself, "working too hard." But he knew better. He'd been a cop too long to ignore his instincts. Something was hunting him. The breaking point came on a Thursday night. James was reviewing case files at home when he heard it. A knock on his window. He lived on the 4th floor. Slowly, he turned his head. There, pressed against the glass, was a face, pale, gaunt, smiling that horrible, impossible smile. The smiling man. James jumped back, reaching for his gun. But when he looked again, the window was empty. His phone rang. Unknown number. Against his better judgment, he answered. Heavy breathing on the other end. And then a voice, wet, distorted, like someone speaking through water. "I've been waiting for you, detective. You've been looking for me.
Now I've found you. Click. James's apartment lights began to flicker. One by one, they went out. He grabbed his flashlight and gun, backing toward the door. But the door wouldn't open. The handle wouldn't turn. He was trapped. From the darkness of his hallway came the sound of footsteps, slow, deliberate, and that smile appeared again, glowing faintly in the dark, moving closer. James fired his gun, once, twice, 3 times. The bullets passed right through. The figure didn't even flinch. It kept coming, that smile growing wider and wider until it seemed to fill James's vision. He could smell it now. Decay, death, something ancient and wrong. The smiling man reached out with long skeletal fingers, and James screamed. The lights came back on. James was on the floor, gasping for air. His gun was empty, the bullets embedded in his far wall. The apartment was empty, but on his window, written in what looked like frost, were 3 words. Soon, detective. Soon. James didn't sleep that night, or the next night, or the one after that. He started researching, digging through old police reports, urban legends, folklore, and he found it. The smiling man wasn't new. Reports of him went back over 100 years, different cities, different countries, but always the same description. Tall, black suit, impossibly wide smile, and everyone who saw him either vanished or died within a week. James was running out of time. He found one account from a survivor, an old woman in a psychiatric hospital, who claimed she'd escaped the smiling man 50 years ago. "He feeds on fear," she whispered when James visited her. "The more you're afraid, the stronger he gets. That's how he pulls you into his world, into the darkness." "How did you survive?" James asked desperately. The old woman's eyes were distant, haunted. "I stopped running. I faced him. I looked into those black eyes, and I refused to be afraid. And for just a moment, he faltered. That's when I ran, and I never stopped running. Not really." James knew what he had to do. That night, he went to the last location where someone had vanished, an old subway tunnel that had been closed for decades. He walked into the darkness armed only with a flashlight. "I know you're here," he called out. "I'm not running anymore." The temperature dropped. His breath came out in clouds. And then he heard it. Footsteps. Behind him. James turned. The smiling man stood 20 feet away, taller than he'd ever appeared before. That smile stretched across his pale face, eyes like bottomless pits. Every instinct screamed at James to run, but he stood his ground. "I'm not afraid of you," James said, his voice shaking but firm. The smiling man tilted his head. The smile flickered. "I'm not afraid," James repeated with more conviction. He took a step forward. The entity took a step back. James kept walking, kept staring into those black eyes, refusing to look away, refusing to give in to the terror clawing at his mind. The smiling man's form began to flicker, like a bad signal, like he was losing power, and then, with a sound like breaking glass, he vanished. James stood alone in the tunnel. His heart was pounding, his hands were shaking, but he was alive. He walked out of that tunnel and never looked back. The disappearances stopped after that night. The smiling man was never seen again, at least not in that city. But James knows the truth. It's still out there, somewhere, waiting for the next person to fear it, to feed it. Because monsters aren't born from evil, they're born from fear. And as long as we're afraid, they'll always be there, in the dark, watching, smiling. What would you do if you saw the smiling man? Would you run, or would you face your fear? Share your answer in the comments, and remember to like and subscribe to the Dark Archive, because the darkness never sleeps, and neither should you. Until next time, stay vigilant.